This is the third tutorial in our series on learning Autodesk Alias design software for IDT 150 computer modeling. I'm your instructor, Josh Haldeman, and today we'll be learning to work with rail and skin surfaces, the intersect and trim tools, the round tool, and using marking menus by building a model of a 3-button computer mouse. To get started, go to cincinnati-state.edu, log in, and select the Blackboard course. Click on the Assignments tab on the left and choose Week 3 Computer Mouse folder. In here you'll find the instructions for this project as well as the mouse.wire file at the bottom. Right click on the wire file and choose Save Link As. Save this to your desktop. And then go into Alias and open the file. You'll notice when you open the file in here that I've already shut off your canvases for you. There is a canvas layer, it's inactive, so I've saved you the trouble of doing that step. If you open a file at any time and the canvases are not locked, always make sure you do that before you proceed on to the next step. To start this tutorial, you want to click in the top view to maximize it and use the Shift and Alternate keys and your right mouse button to zoom in on your model. Next, go over to the palette, go down to the Curves menu, and choose the Circle tool. That's the first one in the upper left. Next, place the circle at these coordinates. You don't need to pick anything here, just type in 0, 0, 0, and hit enter. This will place your circle into your view. Remember, it always comes in very large, so you need to scale it down. So go to the transform menu and choose scale and enter a size of 1 just to make it small enough so that you can see it. We can now scale the circle up using our left mouse button and clicking out in space to the so that it's as wide as the mouse is in the reference picture. Note again that the reference picture isn't exactly centered. It's fairly close. Just get it as close as you can. Again, precision is not that critical in this drawing. Next, we want to scale this circle just up and down. So I'm going to vertically. So I'm going to use my right mouse button, click, and drag it up until the top the top edit points hits the top of the profile there. Next, you'll notice that we're not quite there where we need to be yet. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to pick just the CVs on the bottom and move them around. Now there's a couple of ways we've been doing this before. Remember that we can't do it by having the whole object selected. So I either need to go up to Pick Nothing and Pick CVs, and then select the bottom 3 CVs by either drawing a box around them or selecting them individually. That's one way to do it. There's a little bit faster way if you're comfortable doing this, or if you're interested in learning a different way to doing this. Here's the process. Instead of choosing this way, hold down the Shift and Control keys on your keyboard and check this out. Use your left mouse button, click and drag just a little bit, and you'll notice that it pops up essentially the components of your pick menu. There's Pick Nothing, Pick Edit Points, Pick CV, Pick Curve, Pick Object, Surface, Blend Point, Curve on Surface, and there are also some other options down the bottom. Go ahead and choose Pick Nothing from that menu. Go back to that menu, that's Shift and Control, and choose Pick CVs. Now, when you pick in your scene, you'll pick those CVs without ever having to go over to the palette for these basic pick tools. These are what are called marking menus, and marking menus are very handy because they give you quick access to basic tools so that you don't have to keep going back to the palette. You can also choose transform tools, as well as a couple other ones in here. Let me show you those real quick. Control and Shift again. Use your middle mouse button to access the transform tools. These are move, pivot, scale, center pivot, rotate, non-proportional scale, query edit history, and delete locators. We want to choose move, so choose the move tool there. And it works just like it does when you pick the move tool over here on the palette. You just have to click on it with your right mouse button in this case, because I just want to move these points up and down and drag them down until they're in the position approximately where we want them to be. You can do this again if you want to practice this at the top to place the points out a little bit further towards the edge. So I'm going to hold down, again, Shift and Control, and use the left mouse button to choose Pick Nothing. That'll deselect the CVs at the bottom. Then Shift and Edit again. Choose the Pick CV tool. And let's pick these two CVs here. Not the very top one, but the ones that are on right below that on either side. Then I want to scale those two out. So I'm going to hold down Shift and Control and use my middle mouse button, and I'm going to choose the Scale tool. Now, like I said, I just want to move these out. So if I want to move them left and right, I'm going to use the middle mouse button, and I'm just going to scale it up. Now, you'll notice that when you do this, again, it's kind of hard to get them exactly placed where you want to, and the point that's directly below that, you'll notice that the CVs actually go inside. If you want to fix this at this point, you can do that as well. Again, Shift and Control, left mouse button, Pick Nothing, left mouse button again to choose Pick CVs. Pick the CVs that you want. Let's just pick them individually this time, so you can do it that way instead of drawing a box. And then let's scale it again. Remember that was Shift and Control again, the middle mouse button, and then choose Scale. And now we can move those points a little bit out, and we can get this thing into the shape that we want it to be in. Now again, the purpose here is to try and get the shape nearly correct. It's not exactly perfect. You can see it's not exactly on top of where the mouse is, but that should get you pretty close. If you need to make any final tweaks or adjustments, you can go in and you can do all those on their own. Be aware that you want your mouse to be symmetrical, so don't move one side and just kind of move it randomly without also picking the other side, because then one side will be different shape than the other. All right, so that's the first shape we're going for. The next step, what I want to do is I want to create an edit point curve that defines the height that this shape should be. And I can't do that in this view, obviously, but I need to start it in this view. In order to simplify what I'm seeing in here, there's a tool that allows me to shut off certain parts of the curves that are visible in my scene. This tool is located up under the Object Display menu, and it's up at the very top. It's called Control, and you almost always want to pick the Options button next to the word Control. That would be the little square there. So pick that. For the active object, I want to turn off everything except for edit points. So go down and turn everything else off, just leave edit points on, and then hit Go. And watch what happens. All my hulls, all my CVs, everything in fact except for the shape of the curve itself and the edit points themselves have shut off. This simplifies my view, and it allows me to be able to pick just particular points at any given point in time. Very handy tool. You can go ahead and shut that box now. And what I'm going to do to start drawing the side profile curve is I'm going to go over to my Curves menu again, choose the second tool in, which is the new curves using CV, and I'm going to click and hold on that tool with my left mouse button and choose the second tool in. This is the Edit Point Curve tool. When I've got that picked, I want to pick the point in the middle of the circle at the bottom, but I need to make sure I get it exactly on that point, so I'm going to use my Snap to CV Edit Point Curve tool. And when I pick that, all I need to do is pick anywhere near this point down at the bottom. You can see it's a little red dot if you're looking at it on your screen. Anywhere on or even near that point, it will automatically snap to that point in space. Now, it's very important you go back up and you shut this tool back off before you do the next step. So make sure you turn off your CV and Edit Point Curve tool. Then go over to the window and minimize this view. Go to the right viewport and draw in two more points for your Edit Point Curve. The second point is going to be right about here. See where these extension lines cross for the sketch of your computer mouse? So the second point's going to be right about there. That draws a straight line. The third point is going to be out here in space, well above the top surface of the mouse. So right about here, as if this line here were to continue up. That's where I would want to draw it. And that should give you a subtly curved arc there. If you want to check this out in the perspective window now, you can see what we've drawn. I'm holding down Shift and Alternate and rotating around my view. And you can see that we've got a circle that's been modified to be the shape of the mouse. And we've got an edit point curve that's been created that follows the side profile curve of the mouse, but that's overbuilt. The reason that it's built too tall is that it's a common method in industrial design projects to overbuild surfaces that you need and then combine them together, intersect and trim, and then create the shape that you're going for. And we'll be looking at that next. So the first step here is to combine these two surfaces together, these two curves together to create the surface that we want. I'm going to do this by first choosing Pick Nothing. Then I'm going to scroll down to the Surfaces menu on the palette, and I'm going to choose the Rail Surface tool. This is the one in the middle on the second row down. And I do need to set up options for this, so double-click that tool. When I get the options box for this tool, you'll notice at the top I've got choices for the number of generation curves to select and the number of rail curves to select. By default, generation curves is set to 1, which is correct, but the rail curves option is set to 2. In this case, we only need one of each. So pick one there, and notice that your options will automatically adjust to reflect that change. Now, up in the prompt line, you'll notice at the top it's asking you to select your generation curve. It doesn't matter which one you do in this case, but for consistency's sake, choose the vertical curve here that we created, the edit point curve. Now it's asking you to select your primary rail curve. This is the only other object in our scene, so pick the circle that we modified the shape of originally. When you do that, it combines those two together to create this surface. That's you're now done with this rail surface tool, so go ahead and close it. And let's take a look at what this object looks like with our shading on. So go up to Window Display and turn on Hardware Shade. Now you can move around your view using the Shift and Alternate keys, and you can see what we've created just basically by using these two shapes. Now that we've got our surface built here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a curves layer to place the curves that we use to create this surface onto. This will help us to organize and locate where things need to be. So I've already done that here. I've gone to Layers and I've hit New. I'm going to now click on that L2 layer and change the name to Curves. And then I'm going to pick the curves and assign them to that layer. Remember, this was a tool we looked at in class last week. It's called Pick Nothing, Pick Component. When you do that tool, it pops up these options over here. You need to always make sure you turn off everything except the Pick Curves option. They should all look like they're off. This one will look like it's depressed. It's like kind of a different color or a different shade to indicate that it's selected. Draw a box around everything in your view, and it'll select anything that's a curve. Remember, it also highlights the surface to indicate that that curve is affecting that surface, but that it's the surface itself is not selected, just the curves. Go to the curves layer, assign the objects to that layer, then go back to the curves layer and choose the word visible. This will shut them off and leave you with just the surface that you've created. This will simplify things, make it much easier to see things when we create complex objects. All right, make sure that you hit Save As here and add your name to the end of the file. Now that we've created the side profile of the mouse, side bodies of the mouse, we're going to create the top profile. What does the top surface of the mouse look like? To get started with this, I'm going to switch my views and I'm going to go over to the back view or right view again. And I'm going to go up to Window Display and I'm going to turn Hardware Shade back off so that I can see my model. I'm also going to zoom in a little bit so that I can see this shape a little better. And to get started, I'm going to go to the Curves menu on the palette, go to the second tool in there, click and hold, and choose the new curve using CV's method. Once you've got that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start placing points here for the top curve. I want to, again, overbuild this surface. So the first point I'm going to place is going to be well beyond the edge of where I actually need it to be. So this one, in this case, is going to start at this extension line on the reference sketch. The second point, then, is going to be along that curve. Third point, again, somewhere up near the top. The fourth point, which will allow my curve to finally snap in, remember we're using the CV curve method for creation here, is going to be where the center point for the buttons, there's a vertical line that's perpendicular to the line I'm trying to draw, is place your fourth point right about there. The fifth point and sixth point are going to be beyond that edge, and they're only there to help us to make sure that we've got that curve in the right shape. Now, you'll notice that when you place that fourth point and the other points beyond there that our curve snapped in and started to adjust in its position. We notice you need to move the curve itself to be placed correctly. So let's practice using those marking menus. Hold down Shift and Control. Use your left mouse button and choose Pick Nothing. Then choose it again to choose Pick CVs. Draw a box around the CVs that you want. I'd suggest these two, that be the second and third points in, the one that's shaped like the letter U, and the third point, which is the first X. Then I'm going to move it, Shift Alternate, your middle mouse button, and choose the Move tool. And then I'm going to drag those points up and over until they line up with the shape of the top of that mouse. That is correct in that position. Now I want to copy and paste this curve and place another instance of it into my scene. So I'm going to go to, with that, I'm going too quick here. So go to the Pick menu, choose Pick Nothing, Pick Object, select the entire curve, go to Edit, choose Duplicate and Object to make a copy, and then choose your Move tool and move this shape just down. And what I'm going to suggest here is that you'll notice that there's a corner at the bottom of your mouse. Place this curve just above the back of where that corner is, so that your curve doesn't extend down below that. If you do that on the back, then the front will be in approximately the right position, and everything should be okay. Now we've only moved it down. We need to also move it over. So I'm going to go to my top view again, zoom out so I can see it a little better, and then I'm going to move this copy of the original curve that I drew over to the right. I'm using my middle mouse button to do this, and I'm, again, just moving it beyond the edge of where I want the mouse top to be, and that can be out here just about anywhere. But you can see I placed it approximately roughly two units away from the object. That's a very imprecise placement, but it's just it doesn't really matter as long as it's bigger and not smaller. The next thing that I want to do is I want to copy this curve over to the other side. And I want it to be in exactly the same position that it currently is. Could I copy, paste the middle curve again and move it over? Yes, I could. Could I copy and paste this one? Yes, I could. But remember, there's an easier way to do this, and that's the mirror tool. So go to Edit with that curve selected. Go down to where it says Duplicate and choose the Mirror Options option. This will bring up this box, and then you want to mirror around the Y and Z axes in order to get this curve to be placed on the opposite side. So again, remember, look for where the plane is that these two axes make up. So the Y and the Z, that's your middle option here, and then hit Go. And that'll place a copy of this object on the other side. Now we're ready to proceed with the next step, which is skinning the three of those curves together to create the top surface. I'm going to do this by scrolling down to the Surfaces menu and choosing the Skin option. Now let me show you a problem with this tool. If I pick a curve, notice the first one selects automatically, then I pick the second one, then I pick the third one, that it actually builds what I want to build there. Occasionally you may get an option that doesn't allow you to keep selecting curves. It may just draw like the first line in and then stop and not do the next ones. If that's the case, to ensure that it does the right thing, just hold down Shift. They did modify the way this tool works in the most recent versions of the software. So usually you don't have to do that. If you do have that problem where it just draws straight lines between the curves that you're trying to build a surface between, then just hold down Shift when you make your curve selections. It doesn't matter which direction you go when you start creating the surface, but you do need to pick the curves in order. So if you start on this side, pick the middle and then the left. If you start on the left, then make sure you pick the middle and then the right. And then that'll give you the options that you want. And I'm basing that on the top view. So middle, left, and right. Okay. Now, the most important thing you can do next is save your file. And let's take a look at it in these options. And that's the option box for the skin command. So anytime you get those menus popping up, if you want them to stop, just go to Pick Nothing, Pick Object, and choose File Save again. That'll ensure that you're saving the menu and you're not popping up any options for it. In order to see what we've got, go to Window Display and turn on the hardware shade again. And you can see that we've got two surfaces that fully intersect each other. What I mean by that is this shape for the side profile of the surface completely intersects the top surface of the mouse. The top surface of the mouse also completely intersects the side surfaces. So when I go in to trim these two shapes up, I will be able to do that based on where they intersect. Before you do anything else, make sure you save your file, and we'll then proceed on to the next step. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to intersect and trim these two surfaces up to create the final shape of our mouse. We're going to remove all of the material that's on the outside of the sides of the mouse for the top surface, and we're going to remove the top of the side surfaces, so anything that goes above that. That'll leave us with an intersection here in the middle where those two surfaces intersect, and it'll allow us to create the shape that we want. Before I do this, I do need to make sure that I put my curves that I used to build the top surface onto the curves layer. So again, I'm going to choose Pick Nothing, Pick Component. I've already got the curve tool selected, so I'm going to draw a box around everything and place this on the curves menu. Next, I need you to understand how the intersect and trim tools work in Alias. They're a little different than you might expect in most programs. In most programs, you can simply pick one surface and then choose to trim it with another surface, and that will allow you to remove the parts that you want. In Alias, there's an extra step involved. Don't let it throw you. It's there for a reason. They're trying to give you as much control over this process as possible, but it can be an easy thing to forget. So do whatever you need to help you to remember to do this. But the first step is to go down to the Surface Edit menu on the palette. Go to the first tool there, which currently says it's the Project tool. Click and hold and choose the second tool in. It actually says Isect, but it stands for intersect there. It's going to ask you to select the surfaces to intersect and then hit go. In this case, just pick the top surface, not the side surfaces yet. Just the top, and hit go. Now it's going to ask you to select the intersecting surface or construction plane. This is the other set of surfaces. So pick the side surfaces. Now you'll notice that when you do this, something happens here. We get a little shape that indicates where those surfaces intersect one another, right in the middle. In fact, you can even highlight this. If you go back up to the Pick menu, choose Pick Nothing, and then choose Pick Curve on Surface, which is the button on the third row down, the one in the middle. Just select it and then draw a box around everything, and you'll see it'll highlight the Curve on Surface. Curves on surfaces only purpose, as far as I can tell in this program, are to indicate where a trim operation is to take place. So you always want to make sure that when your curves on surface are there, they're indicating a complete closed shape. If there's any gaps in this shape, then the trim operation will not work. So I always usually do this where I've completed the intersect operation, and now I'm examining the shape that I've got to make sure that there aren't any big gaps in it. If there are, then you need to fill those before you proceed, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. when you're ready and you've got two complete closed shapes there, the intersect indicated by the curve on surface, the next step then is to go and trim those surfaces up. So the trim tool is located right next to the intersect tool on the surface edit menu. That's how you can tell that they go together. So choose the trim tool, and it's going to ask you to select surfaces to trim. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but again, for consistency's sake, let's start with the side surfaces here. That would be this shape. Notice that when you pick it, that it highlights in magenta here, and also notice where I picked it. I picked it on the back side of the object. I didn't pick it up here. The reason is that I don't want to accidentally pick the wrong surface. And it's easy to do that in here because Alias, remember, picks the surfaces based on where these isoparms and where the contour lines are on the body. So it doesn't care about the actual surface itself. It cares about the isoparms. So pick it somewhere where there's no other isoparms or contour lines behind that selection. If you're not sure, turn off the hardware shade. You'll be able to see that there was nothing else behind there. In here, it might be confusing. The program might not know which surface to pick. So it's a good idea to pick out in this general area or move your view to an area where you know there will be nothing behind it. Once you have the surface selected, that indicates where the program needs to do the trim operation. So now the isoparms and the contour lines don't matter. Now you just need to pick the part of the object that you either want to keep or the part you want to get rid of, depending on which one's easier to pick. In this case, I can only see a very small part of the surface that I want to keep at the bottom. So, and I can see almost all of the top, which is the part I want to get rid of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the top area because I can see it better. When you do that, you get this little cross that indicates where your selection is. You can pick multiple areas, but in this case, we just need to pick once because it's this side of everything that's on this side of the curve on surface that I want to get rid of. So pick that, and then at the bottom, choose discard. When you do that, it removes that top section of the object. Now, let's say you make a mistake at this step. It can be kind of hard to remember what you want to do when maybe sometimes you get a little confused, especially when you have more complex objects that you need to trim. So you'll notice that if you go up to the top to where it says Edit and look for the Undo button, that the Undo button is grayed out. That's okay because this tool has an undo built into it. And let me show you where it is. If you're still in the tool and you've made a mistake, all you need to do is go down to the bottom and choose the Revert tool. That'll take you right back to where you just were. And that's it. And then you can say, oops, I meant to keep that, not discard it. In this case, we did it right. But if you did the wrong thing, then you can change it. If you have panicked and said, oh no, I don't need to do that. I needed to do the other side, and in the meantime pick nothing, pick object to reselect your settings there. That revert button goes away, and if you go down, let me check it here. If you do the trim tool and you pick that surface again, let's see if we can do this. I don't think it'll even let you pick the surface. No, I don't think so. You could try picking it first and then seeing if it'll work that way. Let me try it just to see what happens. No, it does not bring back the revert tool. So how do you untrim something if you've gone this far and made a mistake? Because you'll notice you can't undo it here either. The way that they got this built in here, it works a little different from most of the other tools in the program, is that there's actually an untrim tool. It keeps track of all of your objects throughout the process of trimming stuff. So the way to locate it is it's under the Surface Edit menu, under the Trim tool, click and hold, and choose Untrim. Then you can go back and pick any surface and take it right back to where it was, and it remembers all of that information. So that's a good reason why you shouldn't excessively overbuild your objects, because it always remembers what you took off, no matter what. So let's go in, let's trim that back up again one more time. I've already got the surface selected here, so I don't need to pick it. Now I just need to pick the part I need to get rid of. So I'm going to pick up near the top, put the cross there, make sure you see the cross. If you don't see a cross, you're not ready to trim. And then that should activate your buttons on the bottom. Choose discard, and let's move on to the next step. That next step then is to remove this top surface, the excess part of the top. So I'm going to go, and I don't need to reselect the tool. I just need to pick the next surface to trim. And notice that it'll highlight there in magenta. It's kind of subtle. It can be a little hard to see at times. And then we just need to pick a part. Let's do the keep command this time instead of discard. So this time I'm going to pick inside the area that I want to keep. Notice it puts a bigger cross there. The surface is a little different shaped, so the cross is different shaped. And now I'm going to choose keep from my options. That'll remove everything that's outside of the curves on surface. So now we're left with this little soap bar shaped item, which is the body of our mouse. Make sure you hit File Save at this point. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a fillet around the edge. All right. In order to place the round on the edges here, and I'm trying to place these on the edges of this surface around the perimeter of the mouse in order to soften that a little bit. I need to go over to the Surfaces menu on the palette, go down to the fourth row, first tool, that's the round tool. Go ahead and pick it and select. It's going to ask you to select a pair of edges to or modify a profile. I'm going to pick this pair of edges here where the top surface meets the side surface. Now when I initially pick that, I get a couple of things that show up. In green here, I have the edge that's going to apply that round to. Notice that it doesn't pick the whole shape. It only picks half of it. So we'll need to pick the rest of it. But before you do that, the other thing that pops in is the indicator of what size your round will be. That size is currently 100, which is absolutely gigantic. We want to change this down. Let's try 10 and see how big that one is first. That's still a little big. Let's try, they actually suggest in the book 1.25. And that looks like a pretty decent size. So let's try that. And then make sure that you pick the other part of that surface as well, the other part of that edge as well, I'm sorry, to make sure that it selects the whole thing. Now, in the instructions, they also suggest that you modify this shape to have a different size round at the front than at the back. You can do that at this point if you prefer. I'm not going to go into the complexity of that on this video, so we'll get into that a little bit later on in another tutorial. So for now, we're just going to do this simple round. So once you've got that shape selected and the size built right, go ahead and choose the Build command at the bottom, and it's going to give you a preview of the shape that it's going to make. You always want to check these in Alias because it doesn't always do the best job of creating fillets and rounds between surfaces. Sometimes you'll have surfaces that will fly off into space. Sometimes you'll have rounds that are incomplete. Sometimes it won't trim the surfaces that have happened in between. But in this case, it looks okay. If for any reason you do have a problem at this point, just make sure that you recognize you also have a revert tool here. So if you make a mistake, just hit revert. It'll take you right back to that round not being in there. But hit build again if you're happy with it, and we were. So, additionally, if you do accidentally get out of building that round and you want to change it later on, you can do so. You don't have to go through the process of redoing it. All you have to do is choose Pick Nothing, Pick Object, select the round that you want to change, go back down to the round tool on the Surfaces menu, and it'll pop that revert button back up. And you're essentially in the process of editing that round again. So if you want to add something to it or change the size of this or change the location of the fillet size, then you can do that at this point. And however, in this case, we are happy with that, like I said. So you've got it built. When you're happy, go choose Pick Nothing, Pick Object. That'll get you out of the round tool and allow you to safely proceed. And then make sure you go to File and hit Save. All right, in order to finish off the mouse tutorial, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to place the housings and the buttons on the top surface of the mouse here. This is probably the most complex part of this project, and it's really not that it's hard. It's more that it can be a little challenging, a little tedious to do. You've heard that saying before, the devil is in the details. This is no exception. Placing these circles for the housings and the buttons can be a little tricky, and it can try your patience, I think. But there is a process. I'm going to show it to you, and I'll show you how to get through it with as little pain as possible. So I'm going to start off by going to the right view. I'm going to zoom in on where the housings and the buttons are. There are 3 of them in this particular mouse model. I'm going to see them a little better, I'm going to turn off my hardware shade again. And you'll notice that if you go to the top view, you can see where they are a little better. The housings are a little bigger than the buttons, and they look like they're recessed into the surface there based on where our shadowing is. The buttons then stick up out of those recesses and allow us a place for our fingers to rest. So in order to create them, the first step, like I said, is go to the right view. I'm going to go down to the Surfaces menu, and I'm going to choose the Primitive Sphere tool. That's the first tool there in the upper left-hand corner of the Surfaces menu. To place this, I'm going to put it, I don't need to click in or snap to any surface here. I'm just going to place it right about where that vertical line is and the top surface of the mouse, where those 2 lines intersect. I'm not going to get it exact. I'm just going to place it approximately there. Again, it comes in big, so scale it down, and then scale it up to the size that you want that's appropriate. And now you need to be sure that you can, to remember that you can change your view at any given point here in order to be able to see this more precisely. So if I want to scale it, I know it needs to be flatter, so I need to go out this way. I also know that it needs to shrink down a bit. I also know that I need to rotate it a bit. And I need to make sure I get the right direction there. Pay attention to your corner. We're looking at the straight on at the x-axis, so if I'm rotating around that direction, I need to use my left mouse button. And then angle it correctly and check it while you're positioning it in the top view. In the right side view, check it in your top view, because you can see we've got it sized and shaped close, not exactly right. But we need to make it wider, and we also need to make it position it a little better. So I'm going to continue moving this around, and I'm notice that I'm using both views in this case. I believe this is the first time we've done this, but it's a nice trick to be able to use when you're making adjustments to move it in one view while you're watching it in another. So that you can see that you're getting it in the correct place. So I need to scale this up first. Let's make it the right width so we can adjust that. I'm going to do that in the top view. And remember, I'm looking to place the size of the housings, not the buttons itself yet. So look for the recesses for these buttons. Then I'm going to move it a little bit so that it's better centered. And I'm doing that in the side view, being aware of how I'm moving it, not just up and down, but also side to side. And then when I get it centered a little better here, I'm going to scale it again, just using my middle mouse button, and that will finally allow me to place that in approximately the right position. Now you do want to be aware of how close you're getting to the front the front round on the mouse. Make sure that you don't get it. Make sure that the 2 don't overlap. They can be close, just make sure they don't overlap. Because that will cause some problems when we go to trim up these shapes. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take that shape that I've created here, and I want to copy it, and I want to move it off to one side. We'll do the same thing we did with the top surface of the mouse, where we create one that's positioned in place perfectly and then mirrored across to the other side. So first step is Edit, Duplicate Object. Then I'm going to choose the Move tool, and I'm going to move it in the top view over to where I want it to be, just using my left mouse button here because I don't need to constrain it at all at this point. Then I can rotate it. In the top view, I'm going to be rotating around the Z, so use your right mouse button and angle it the right way. Notice that this housing is a little bigger, but that I don't want to go too much bigger, again, because I'll hit the front surface. So if you need to scale it up, you can. Just be aware that you're going to hit that front surface before you get too much bigger. So I'm going to go right about to there, and then maybe move it back slightly. Now, you'll notice that it looks right in the top view, but in the side view, you can tell something's not quite right yet. And if you go to your perspective window here, you can tell that something's really not right because if you look at this with the hardware shade on, you can see that it's not rotated correctly. If we try and place this object, oh, we got a little closer. If we try and place this object and intersect it with that top surface, it's not going to trim up correctly. It's not going to build it right. So I need to angle this thing in a really kind of funny way, and I can't really do that in the top view at all. I can't do it in the right side view, and I can hardly see it in the front view. If you turn your hardware shade off, you can maybe see it a little better based on the sketches. For instance, in the side view, I can tell that it needs to move down about there or so. But you can also still tell that it's not rotated correctly. So you can watch your perspective view at here actually to see how it should be rotated. Again, I would suggest maybe using the front view in this case to do the rotation. That would be around the Y, so that's your middle mouse button. Rotate it there and then watch it in the perspective window and see what it's doing. If you need to have your hardware shade on to be able to tell when you have it angled correctly, that will help you out. Your goal is to try and align it so that half of that sphere is below the top surface and half of it is above. So you can see we're closer now, but we still are having the front disappear a bit there. So let's rotate it front to back a little more. So let's do that in the right view, and that's the X mouse button, the left one. Now we can get it a little closer to where it needs to be, and we can also tell that we need to move it up and possibly rotate it again a little more around the Y. But you can see it's a bit challenging to do all of this, and it's not at all easy. You got to kind of be, like I said, be very patient with it and make sure that you get it right. When you do the rotation, left to right, back and forth, just keep checking it to make sure that you have the object halfway below. So in this case, I'm going to go around the Y again a little bit. Let's go this way just a touch, and then let's go back down a bit. It looks like it needs to go down more. That's about as much as I'm going to get without losing it on the other side. So let's rotate again, again around the Y, and move it down some more. And it looks like we're pretty close there. Again, go around it and just check it and make sure you can see that little isoperm that represents the middle surface there. And if you need practice with this, don't hesitate to take your time with this step. I'm kind of rushing through it a little bit here. Typically, you'll take a little bit longer, make sure you get it exactly right, and then and make sure you'll be satisfied with the results that you're going to get. Once you get that one place, the great thing about it is not only can you mirror it across to the other side to create the other copy of this, and I don't think I need to pick the options for mirror because I think I'm still mirroring across the YZ. So, yeah, indeed, when I pick the mirror tool, it automatically mirrors across the YZ based on that last selection that I had. So now both are placed, but in addition to having the housings in roughly the correct position, we can also get the buttons placed in roughly the correct position because we can just copy and paste these three objects. And in fact, that's the next step that I'm going to take. So I'm going to pick all three, go to Edit, Duplicate Object, and remember what that does. It deselects the ones below and selects the new copies that you just placed. Go to the Layers menu, choose New, double-click the name of that layer and call it Buttons. And then, oops, helps if you spell it right. And get the caps lock right. Then click and hold on the word Buttons. Assign those objects to that layer, and then shut that layer off. Make it invisible. Now, that leaves one copy there for you to continue editing, but the second copy is there and ready to go once we get these housings cut out. Now this part seems like it's a little tricky. We're going to go back to that intersect and trim tool again. It seems like it's a little tricky. Don't overthink it. It's not as hard as it looks. All I need to do here is start by picking all three of these shapes, then going down to the Surface Edit menu on your palette, choose the Intersect tool, and then pick the top surface of your mouse. When you do that, it'll draw in the curves on surface on all three of those housings and allow you to be able to trim them up. So let's go ahead and do that next. They're all intersected now. Just hit trim. And you do need to do this operation one surface at a time. So you pick each housing, each sphere that represents a housing, pick the part you want that you want to get rid of and discard it. You can't see the part that you want to keep, so just choose the part you want to get rid of at the top. And do that for all three. Then do it for the top surface. So pick the top surface, and notice that if I pick in the inside here that I need to pick 3 times, if on the other hand I pick out here somewhere, all I need to do is tell it to keep that part, and it will remove the part in all 3 of those housing areas. Now we're left with the housings for the buttons, and they're all placed and positioned correctly, and they are built correctly. Now, usually most of the time when I do this for classes, they need to see that operation again. Since this is on a video, I won't do it again. Just rewind, watch it again if you need to see it again. But the next step then is to move on, complete the mouse by sizing and placing the buttons themselves. Make sure that you hit File Save at this point, though. All right, this is the last part of the computer mouse, and we're going to just simply place and size and position the buttons. We place these on a layer that we shut off, so the first thing we need to do is turn that layer back on. Don't be concerned here to look like our housings are coming back because we haven't sized them yet. But go to the buttons layer, choose the word visible, and they'll pop right back in. Next step, what I would suggest to do this is, again, don't waste a whole bunch of time trying to position both of the side buttons. Instead, delete one of those and just position the center and one side button. When you get the side button positioned correctly, mirror it across to the other side to make sure it's the same size. So the middle mouse button, pick it first, and let's take a look at it in the top view. All right, first thing we need to do is scale it down. We can scale it down in all 3 directions to get it to be roughly the right size. And let's move it up a little bit so that we can tell how much smaller we need to make it. That looks like we're pretty close, but we need to just scale it down vertically a little bit. All right, that's the correct size. Now the correct shape. Again, very hard to tell where to place it, especially now that we've got the housing cut out there. So my suggestion would be turn on the hardware shade and move it down until it looks like it's correct. You can do that in this view. Notice that you can tell kind of when it goes into the object, and if it goes too far, how far it goes. My suggestion would be to line it up with the center point so that you can kind of see that. Let me zoom in here a bit. You can kind of tell when the center point starts to disappear into the surface. Line it up there, and when you do, you could tell that the front is dipped into the surface a little bit. The back is still sticking out. So if we rotate, in this case, around the X here, and I'm going to do that in a different view so I can see it a little better, then I could see when it comes out of the front and dips into the back. And you can see we need to go down just a hair more. Right about there looks pretty even. It's a very subtle movement, but again, you take a little bit of patience, get it right, and make sure that you're going to be happy with the results. Let's see. All right, then we've got that one positioned. Let's do the side one the same way. I'm going to turn off my hardware shade so you can see it in the top view. Scale it down in all 3 directions to begin with. That's the left mouse button. Then let's scale it just back and forth to make it a little thinner. And then let's move it so that it's roughly in the right position here. You can tell when you look at this thing that it's a little off from where the reference is. And a part of that's because where we placed our housing and how we oriented it. Use your best judgment here. Line it up where you think it'll look correct, and base it on where the geometry is, not necessarily where the reference image is. At this point, when you get this far along, it's important to allow for that. Once you get it pretty close and you're fairly happy with the results, again in the top view, then check it in the front and the side, or in the perspective and the side views. We know that it'll need to go down a little bit. We're just not sure how far, so turn the hardware shade back on, and then check its angle and its rotation and everything else there. Looks like we'd be centered right about there a bit. And then I need to rotate it front to back a little using the X. So I'm going to place it right about there. And I'm going to do one last check here on the other side, make sure that it looks good there. And I can only zoom in so far before it gets cut off by the clipping in this view. I'll show you in a later lesson about how to shut that clipping off, but for now, that's pretty good wherever we've got it. Again, check it in the top view, make sure it's aligned. Looks like it's centered in the housing before you mirror it across. But that looks pretty good in all three views, all four views. And then let's see, next step then is finally just to mirror that across one more time. And now we should be done. Again, might want to double check it just to be sure that both sides are the same. And that should give us what we want. All right, so that's the computer mouse tutorial. You'll notice if you go to the rendering tools, that's under Render, Multi-Lister, and Shaders, that you have some shaders already built for you. You can kind of see what goes where for the most part. There's a white shader for the mouse body. There's a clear shader for the buttons. And you can see from the reference image kind of where all that stuff should go. So if you want to try it out, check it out. I'd also suggest for extra credit on this one, there are some other details we didn't model on this mouse. For instance, the cord coming out of the front. This little aesthetic feature that's on the back part of the mouse, as well as the little cutout that's in the top surface. If you want to explore trying to do that, go ahead and try and draw it in, see what you can do, see what you can come up with. Use the new things that you know with the trim, the intersect and trim tool, and use what you know about applying the render shaders now to try and see if you can replicate what we've got here. But have fun with it, enjoy, and if you have questions, we'll talk it over in class. Thanks. Have a good one.